Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History. Imagine holding a small piece of metal in your hand that looks like an ordinary penny, something you'd find lying at the bottom of a drawer or hiding in your pocket change, yet it carries with it one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history. Today we're diving deep into one of the rarest and most talked about coins ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny struck in silver. Now, if you're a coin collector or just someone who loves hidden treasures, this is one of those coins that captures the imagination like no other. It's a coin that looks out of place in its own era, a mistake of history, but also a breathtaking reminder of how small accidents at the mint can turn into legendary treasures worth a fortune. To understand why this coin is so special, let's rewind back to the early 1940s. During World War II, copper was in high demand because it was needed for ammunition and military equipment. As a result, the mint experimented with different metals to preserve copper for the war effort. That's why in 1943, the familiar Lincoln Wheat penny wasn't made of its usual copper composition but instead was struck in steel and coated with zinc. These steel cents gave the coins a shiny, silver-like appearance, but they were often confused with dimes and corroded easily. Because of the problems, the mint returned to copper in 1944, using recycled shell casings from the war. Here's where the story of the 1944 silver wheat penny comes in. In the transition from 1943 to 1944, a few leftover steel planchets, those small blank metal discs used to strike coins, accidentally got stuck in the minting presses. Instead of striking them into 1943 pennies as intended, they were mistakenly used for the 1944 run. This means a handful of pennies in 1944 were struck on steel or silver-colored planchets instead of copper. Among these rare pieces, one of the most famous is the 1944 wheat penny. The S mint mark indicates it was struck at the San Francisco Mint, and the fact that it's a transitional error makes it one of the most desirable coins a collector could ever dream of finding. Now, what does this coin look like? At first glance, it resembles the standard Lincoln Wheat penny design. On the obverse side, you have Abraham Lincoln's portrait facing right, with the word Liberty and the date 1944 beside him. Below the date sits that small but important S mint mark. On the reverse side, you see the classic wheat ears design framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum at the top. But what makes it stand out instantly is the color. Unlike the reddish-brown or deep copper tones of regular 1944 pennies, this rare piece shines like silver, almost like a dime, and that striking difference is what tips collectors off to its incredible rarity. One of the reasons this coin is so fascinating is that it wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't part of any planned production, no announcement was made, and no one expected it. It slipped through as a mistake, and only a very tiny number of them are known to exist today. Think about it, billions of pennies were struck in the 1940s, but just a few of these silver-colored 1944 wheat pennies survived. That kind of rarity makes it the holy grail for collectors. Over the years, whenever one of these coins comes up at auction, it sparks an incredible amount of excitement. Collectors know they're bidding not just on a coin, but on a piece of history that represents a mistake so rare that it will never happen again in the same way. Stories of people finding steel pennies from 1944 in old coin jars, inherited collections, or even by chance in pocket change add to the magic, fueling the hope that anyone could stumble upon one. So how much is one of these treasures worth today? Well, if you happen to come across a genuine 1944 silver wheat penny, you are holding a coin worth an absolute fortune. Depending on its condition, its value has been recorded at astonishing figures in auctions. The highest known sales for one of these coins have reached an incredible $70,000 in words. This is why collectors dream about these rare coins. It's not just the metal, it's not just the mistake, it's the story behind it, the history it carries, and the possibility that such a tiny piece of change can hold such enormous value. Today we will take you back to the year 1955, a year that carries one of the most talked about and highly collectible coins in American numismatic history. The Lincoln Wheat penny had already become a household coin since its introduction in 1909, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1955, this little 1-cent coin had already circulated in billions, but among them, some carried features and characteristics that made them worth far more than their face value. Today, we are going to uncover the mysteries, history, and value behind the 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny with mint mark, and why collectors chase after it with such passion. When you hold a 1955 penny in your hand, you are holding a piece of mid-century America. The United States was thriving in the post-war era, industries were booming, and coins like these were exchanged daily in shops, diners, gas stations, and small-town stores. Most people never thought twice about them. They were just pennies used to pay for candy, a soda, or a newspaper. But numismatics tells us that hidden within these ordinary copper coins are rare treasures. Some of the 1955 Lincoln Wheat pennies, depending on their mint mark, era, and condition, are among the most desirable finds for coin collectors across the globe. The design is timeless. On the obverse, you have the dignified bust of Abraham Lincoln, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, who gave the coin its iconic look back in 1909. His initials, VDB, appear on the reverse in some issues, but the wheat ears framing the words, 1 cent, stand proudly on the reverse of the coin, giving it its well-known nickname, the wheat penny. For the 1955 penny, the beauty lies not only in its design but in the specific mint marks and errors that make certain pieces worth thousands of dollars today. There were 3 mint-striking pennies in 1955, Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. Each one has its own mintage numbers, conditions, and rarities. But what excites collectors most about the 1955 penny is not only the mint marks, but also the possibility of errors, like doubling on the obverse. Even without the famous double die error, certain mint mark varieties and pristine condition wheat pennies from 1955 can fetch incredible values in auctions and private sales. Collectors especially prize coins that are in uncirculated or mint state condition. Think about it, most pennies were heavily used in everyday commerce, meaning they were rubbed down, scratched, or damaged over time. Finding a penny from 1955 that still holds its original luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear is like finding a time capsule of American history. Such coins are not just pennies, they are investments, historical artifacts, and works of art. But what makes the 1955 mint mark penny truly fascinating is its connection to error history. During this year, a batch of pennies was struck with a dramatic double die error, where the date and inscriptions on the coin appear doubled. This mistake created one of the most famous error coins in American history, instantly becoming a collector's dream. While most ordinary 1955 pennies may only be worth a few cents to a few dollars depending on grade, the rare varieties tied to mint marks and errors can skyrocket in value, making them the centerpiece of any collection. Now imagine coming across a 1955 wheat penny while searching through a jar of old coins or pocket change. At first glance, it may seem like just another old cent. But under the right conditions, with the correct mint mark, grade, and rarity, this penny could change someone's financial life overnight. It's that very possibility that makes coin collecting so exciting, the chance that history and fortune could be sitting right in your hand. Over the decades, coin auctions and collectors' markets have confirmed that certain 1955 Lincoln Wheat pennies with mint marks are some of the most valuable 1-cent pieces in American history. Their rarity, combined with collector demand, continues to push prices higher as years go by. While millions of pennies were minted, the survival rate of high-grade coins is much lower, which only adds to their scarcity. So, the next time you come across a wheat penny, especially one from the 1950s, take a moment to look at its date, mint mark, and condition. Because one small detail could mean the difference between just another penny and a collector's jackpot. Today we're diving into one of those coins that could completely change the way you look at small change forever. The United States of America Lincoln Wheat penny from the year 1958 with a mint mark. At first glance, it may look just like any other penny you've come across in your daily transactions, but what if I told you that this small copper coin could be worth a staggering fortune? That's exactly what makes this story so fascinating, and it's why collectors around the world are always on the lookout for these hidden treasures. The Lincoln Wheat penny series, minted between 1909 and 1958, is one of the most beloved and widely collected coins in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, these pennies were the very first U.S. coins to feature the portrait of a real historical person instead of symbolic figures like Liberty. The front side proudly shows the image of President Abraham Lincoln, detailed and timeless, while the reverse displays the two wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America, giving them the nickname wheat pennies. Over the years, billions were minted, but among those billions, only a small fraction carry special characteristics that make them worth far more than a single cent now. 1958 was a very significant year for wheat pennies. It marked the final year that the U.S. Mint produced coins with the iconic wheat ears on the reverse before switching to the more modern Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. That transition makes the 1958 wheat pennies the last of an era, the closing chapter of nearly 5 decades of history. For collectors, coins that mark an end or beginning of a series often hold greater significance, because they symbolize change, rarity, and finality. And when it comes to the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, its importance grows even greater depending on its condition, errors, and how it has survived over the years. The mint mark itself is a critical detail to look out for. Located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, the mint mark tells which U.S. mint facility produced the coin. For example, a small d represents Denver, an S represents San Francisco, and if no mint mark appears, that means it was struck at the main Philadelphia Mint. Certain mint marks are produced in lower quantities, making those versions rarer and more sought after by collectors. And when we combine the final year of the wheat design with a particular mint mark, suddenly the value of the coin skyrockets beyond anything you'd expect from a penny. But what really set some of these 1958 wheat pennies apart are the rare varieties and errors that occurred during the minting process. Errors like double dies, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes are the kinds of mistakes collectors dream of finding, because they're extremely rare and highly desirable. In fact, one of the most famous coins in U.S. history is a double die penny, though that one is from 1955, the idea holds true here as well. Any 1958 penny that shows a significant striking error or a rare variety can easily fetch thousands upon thousands of dollars depending on its condition. Condition, of course, is king when it comes to coin values. Collectors and professional graders use the Sheldon coin grading scale to assess coins, ranging from good at the low end to mint state at the high end. A well-worn penny might still only be worth a few dollars, but one that has been preserved in nearly flawless condition, bright red luster, no scratches, and crisp details, can skyrocket in value. This is especially true for wheat pennies from the final years like 1958, because pristine examples are much harder to find. Think about it, most pennies were circulated heavily, spent in everyday transactions, jumbled in cash registers, or left to tarnish in piggy banks. To find one that has survived in mint condition is like uncovering a time capsule straight from the 1950s. Now imagine this scenario: you're looking through an old coin jar in your attic or maybe examining some coins passed down from your grandparents. You pull out a 1958 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, and at first it seems like nothing more than an interesting relic of the past. But then, after closer inspection, you notice that it has all the qualities collectors dream about: sharp details, brilliant luster, and possibly even a rare minting variety. That's when you realize you're holding something extraordinary, something that could be life-changing. These pennies aren't just pieces of copper, they're pieces of history. They connect us to the people who used them, to the time when they circulated, and to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself. Each scratch, shine, or preserved detail tells a story that stretches back over 60 years. And for collectors, owning a coin like this isn't just about its monetary value, it's about preserving a tangible part of America's past. Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1945 with a mint mark. This coin may look like just another wheat penny, but certain examples are worth an incredible amount of money. To truly appreciate this penny, let's first step back into the history of its creation. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was designed by Victor David Brenner and was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of allegorical figures. The wheat penny design, featuring 2 stalks of wheat on the reverse, ran from 1909 until 1958, and during those decades millions upon millions of coins were struck. The year 1945 was a particularly important period in history, as the United States was still involved in World War II. The war had changed the way coins were made. In 1943, for instance, the mint famously produced steel cents to conserve copper for the war effort. By 1945, copper was back in use, but there were still interesting variations, errors, and unique features that made some coins from this era far more valuable than others. Now, what makes a 1945 wheat penny so special? The answer lies in its mint mark, condition, and potential minting errors. During this time, pennies were struck at 3 major U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The mint mark, located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, tells us where the coin was made. A D indicates Denver, an S means San Francisco, and no mint mark signifies Philadelphia. Collectors are especially fascinated by certain 1945 pennies with strong strikes, rare die errors, or exceptional preservation. A coin that has been sitting untouched for decades and has avoided scratches, wear, and discoloration is much more likely to command a high price at auction. The errors of the 1945 penny are where things get even more exciting. Some examples show doubling in the date or lettering, known as a double die, which makes them extremely collectible. Others may have misaligned dies, off-center strikes, or even planchet errors, which occur when the blank coin material isn't prepared properly. These types of mistakes were not common, but when they did occur, they produced coins that are one of a kind. Imagine holding a piece of history that shouldn't even exist in its current form. This is what makes these rare wheat pennies so desirable to coin collectors and investors alike, but beyond errors, condition is key. Most 1945 pennies in circulation are worn down from decades of use, but those few that were carefully saved, kept in protective cases, or forgotten in drawers can look as though they just came from the mint. These coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing coins in near-perfect condition. When a 1945 penny receives a high grade, it can sell for an astonishing amount of money at auction, even though millions of these coins were produced. Imagine how many of these pennies were exchanged in everyday life in 1945, used to buy candy, newspapers, or war bonds. Most were spent, circulated, and eventually worn away. But the rare few that remain in pristine shape, with mint marks and unique characteristics, are the ones that today spark bidding wars among collectors. People around the world compete for the chance to own such a remarkable piece of history. Now here's the truly jaw-dropping part. While many 1945 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents to a couple of dollars in average condition, some rare examples with mint marks, near-perfect grades, and special features have fetched staggering amounts of money. In fact, one of these highly sought-after coins has been sold for an unbelievable $98,000. Today? Yes, the simple 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny of 1953 can be worth far more than its face value, and the story behind it is as fascinating as the coin itself. Let's travel back to the early 1950s. The world was recovering from World War II, the United States was entering a period of economic growth, and coins like the Lincoln wheat penny were part of the daily life of every American. The Lincoln wheat cent, introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, had already become one of the most recognized and widely used coins in circulation. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features Lincoln's portrait, while the reverse showcases 2 stalks of wheat encircling the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, symbolizing strength and prosperity. By 1953, wheat pennies were being struck at 3 major mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you look just below the date on your 1953 penny, you might notice a small letter. A D represents the Denver Mint, an S indicates San Francisco, and if there's no mint mark at all, it was struck in Philadelphia. This little detail makes a big difference, because certain mint marks combined with high-grade preservation can mean the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth thousands of dollars. Now, what makes some 1953 wheat pennies so valuable? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and those fascinating minting errors that collectors dream about. Over 256 million pennies were struck in Philadelphia alone that year, plus millions more in Denver and San Francisco. But here's the catch: most of them were spent, circulated, and worn down over time. Coins that passed from pocket to pocket, jingled in lunch counters, or paid for newspapers and candy bars naturally lost their sharp details. The ones that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, however, are a completely different story. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that look almost as though they were just struck yesterday, with crisp details and original red luster. Errors are another key factor. Some 1953 pennies show doubling in the date or lettering, known as double die errors, which instantly makes them stand out. Others may have off-center strikes, die cracks, or even clipped planchets, mistakes made during the minting process that produced coins unlike any other. These errors are rare, and when combined with a mint mark in excellent condition, they can skyrocket the value of a coin. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper that escaped the mint with a flaw, making it not a mistake, but a treasure in the eyes of collectors. Think about the history these coins have seen. In 1953, a penny had real purchasing power. It could buy a piece of candy, go toward a loaf of bread, or help fill up a gas tank. They were an essential part of everyday life, passing through the hands of millions of Americans. Yet while most people spent them without a second thought, some were tucked away, saved in jars, coin albums, or collections, preserved for decades. Those are the coins we hunt for today, the ones that survived with their beauty intact. Grading also plays a massive role in the value of a 1953 wheat penny. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with mint state grades at the top. A penny in mint state red, meaning it retains its full original luster, is especially desirable. The difference in value between a circulated penny and a high-grade mint state penny is astonishing. While most worn 1953 pennies may only fetch a few cents to a couple of dollars, those rare mint state examples with mint marks and strong strikes can command eye-popping prices. This is why collectors all over the world are constantly searching for these coins. They are not just copper pieces of money, they are artifacts, each one telling a story about the year it was struck, the people who used it, and the rare chance of it surviving in spectacular condition. A coin like this can turn up in the most unexpected places: an inherited collection, an overlooked coin jar, or even in pocket change. And that's the thrill of coin collecting. You never really know when you might stumble upon something extraordinary. Now, let's talk about the big number that has shocked collectors and investors alike. While the average 1953 penny may not seem valuable, the rarest examples in the highest grades with the right mint marks and exceptional preservation have been sold for jaw-dropping amounts. Believe it or not, one of these incredible 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies has reached a value of $88,000. So the next time you spot a penny from 1953, don't dismiss it as just another old coin. Take a closer look at that mint mark, inspect its condition, and think about the journey it has taken over the decades. Because hidden in plain sight, in the palm of your hand, could be a small copper coin with a story richer than gold and a value beyond imagination.